Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's time for another video on the Honda VFR. Now in one of the previous videos I mentioned I bought this bike with no keys. I didn't have any keys when I bought it, so now it's time to solve that issue. Got a set of keys, let's get straight into it. So I did try to cut a new key for it, but that didn't really work. Although I was getting pretty close on the barrel, the fuel tank wasn't really working. And when I got to the seat lock, the key wasn't going in at all. So I don't know if this bike had a mismatch set or what was happening, but I decided it's just not worth spending any more time on that. I wasted enough already. So here's the solution. I picked up this new set off eBay for about £40, which sounds pretty good, but it's not perfect, as you'll see in a bit. So let's start off with the seat lock. It's got tamper-proof bolts, so I need to grind a slot in the head of the bolt. And now I'm using an impact screwdriver to get them loose. And here it comes apart. And looking at the two, you can see they're quite different. So although I've explored a few options, it's not easily going to work. Right, so I'm a bit pressed for time, so I decided to take a bit of a shortcut here and not do the job properly, you might say. So at some point I might come back to this lock, but for now I'm going to set this aside. And I've got the old lock. I've disabled it, so this is just does nothing now. I can open the seat anytime, put this back together, back on the bike. So I'm not going to spend any more time on it now. I'm just going to go ahead and rebuild the forks, deal with other small jobs I had to do on it, and get it through an MOT and back on the road. So I'm just going to fix the bracket back on the bike. I find a bit of copper grease on the threads keeps corrosion away. And tighten them to the correct torque. And make sure the latch still works. Now I can add the rear fairing back on and the job's done. And now I'm onto the fuel tank. This bit should go a bit smoother. I'm just removing all the bolts. And there it is. I opened it, mainly because I don't feel comfortable showing too much about how to break into bikes. And I was in the shed with my son needing something to do. And there it is, all open. Let's have a look inside. There's a bit of corrosion in there. Not as bad as I thought, and not as bad as the camera seems to pick it up. But for the most part it's pretty good. So here's the new next to the old. The old one definitely looks better finished, but the new one isn't too bad, especially for the price. The old one is showing its age, but it's definitely a nicer, better quality product. But this ain't too bad. It'll do just fine for now. So I've cleaned the fuel tank a bit, and I'm just going to fit the new cap in place. Bit of copper grease on the bolts again. If you'd listened when I took the old ones out, you could hear how corroded they were. There probably is a torque setting for these as well. And look at that, it actually works. That was easy. Right, doesn't look too bad. I think it looks quite okay from a distance. Fits okay, seems to work. When you open the lid, that doesn't look like a nice O-ring. It's some sort of seal, which should do a reasonable job, you'd think. The worst thing is the fact that it doesn't quite close flush, which is okay, I suppose. I'll get used to that. I might try and improve that in the future. One thing you could do is probably just shim the actual lid. If it sits up by probably a mil, it might look a lot better. But for the most part, yeah, it should do the job for now. It's okay. I mean, the whole kit was, the whole ignition barrel, which doesn't fit yet, fuel tank cap, which we got one that fits, and the seat lock that again doesn't fit, was around 40 quid. So not terrible all in all. Right, so onto the ignition switch. For this bit, it's easier if I just take the front fairing off. and I need to do that anyway for when the time comes to fix the dashboard. Next video, hopefully. So let's just quickly run through this. So here's the problem now. I've got the Honda clamp that just came off the bike. I've got the original ignition switch with the barrel missing because I couldn't really cut a key for it successfully. And the switch I just took off the bike, which used to just sit like that on the back of it. The new one, unfortunately, doesn't quite fit. And it doesn't seem I can find the right one anywhere, unless I want to spend a lot of money for a pretty tiny looking used set, which I don't want to do at this point, I don't think. I want to make this work, but it's got a few issues. As you can see immediately, diameter is a lot bigger. So I could bore this out. It doesn't have to be like this is way undersized. I think I just need to clean it a little bit and this will fit. Problem solved. Second issue, this bolt for locking the steering, it's a little bit lower, so I don't want to change the frame on the bike. I'll probably just grind the bottom of it when it's sticking out. But my main issue now is the connector. That's different. So the way this works, when the ignition is on, all three of these are connected. When it's off, none of them are connected. On this one, it seems to switch from one side to the other. Not sure why. So I need to make these work somehow. But in the meantime, this is definitely not going on the bike, so I'll just cut this off and try a few things and see how well it works. I got it mounted in the clamp. I had to bore this out, as I said, but it turned out pretty good. I think it looks probably better than the original because the bore is just a little bit tighter. But yeah, it looks okay. The next thing I need to do is modify the deadbolt, but that shouldn't take me too long. I just need to grind some of it off. But yeah, the main work is going on the electronic side. So the original switch had 3 wires. This one has only 2, which they switch from one side to the other. So these are on. These are connected when the switch is off. So can't use these. These will have to go away. I can only use these 2. The original switch has 3. Same thing, these are connected together. This is what gives the bike main power. What does the blue one do? Well, looking at the wiring diagram, hope that's clear enough. We've got the ignition switch there. We've got the blue wire, blue and orange or blue and yellow wire, going through a 5 amp fuse and powering the fan motor. Well, my knowledge of electronics isn't great, so don't take everything I say for good. But I believe the reason for that is that if you switch the ignition off, and the fan is still spinning, obviously it'll take some time for it to slow down, to stop. If these two would be connected together, you could actually feed quite a bit of back EMF into the main switch, and that might upset some of the electronics or sensors or something, because you might get spikes. So it's best if you isolate this, and when the ignition is off, this is properly off. Obviously I can't do that with my old switch, so what am I going to do? Well, the plan is to fit one of these fused relay. Right, forget everything I just said. It's all bollocks. Although it's useful information, so I might leave it in there. I'll have to decide that later. But for now, I took the switch apart. This is a new switch. The reason for that is just to tidy up the wires, take 2 of them out if I don't need them, and figure out how I'm going to do this as neatly as possible. When I took it apart, I thought, oh, there are a couple of terminals that aren't used. So right now I'm feeding 12 volts to the red wire, and you can see the test light, you know, 12 volt is coming here, not to the other ones. As soon as I switch this on, I'm getting 12 volts to the black wire as expected, not to the other two, but this big lug here, which is exactly the same as the other two, so it kind of indicates it's meant to take a higher current. This is powered as well, which is great news. So what I'm going to do is remove the black and gray wire, or I might just leave it there, but the green wire, I'm going to take it off here, solder it onto there, and I'm going to use this to turn on the fan. So this is going to be connected to the blue wire on the other side. So there we go, problem sorted. A lot easier than using a relay. Right, here we go, trying to keep things short. I've already connected the old connector onto my new ignition switch, all heat shrink, nicely done, should be pretty watertight. Don't see having any issues with that. So also changed the steering lock, that all works, both sides, and it turns on. As you can see, the display is not working, so that's something to fix in the next video. But for now, the ignition is done, fuel tank is done. I put some more washers underneath, so it's closing better. I still feel a bit of fuel smell every time I come in the shed, and that only happens after I replace this, so maybe it's not sealing great. Right, well, I think that's it for today. Hopefully I can edit it in a pretty short video. So we got a new ignition switch on, new tank cap on, and we sort of have a seat lock. I might come back to that later, but for now it's fine. And yeah, that's it for today. I'm gonna finish the forks, which hopefully will be in the video you've already seen, and a few other bits, and hopefully we can get this inspected. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.